Alright, let's do this. My cold's in the obnoxious phase. I have like a mild fever and it makes me feel all crappy. So I haven't done my treadmill today. I'm debating about whether or not I'm going to do it. And if I do, it won't be for nearly as long or nearly as fast. I'm not making myself sicker. That's not going to happen. I looked into it online. The internet doesn't lie to you about health stuff, right? That's right. Okay, first up, the Calgary Flames were in against the Minnesota Wild. This, of course, was a game that was this afternoon. I would have done a review of the Toronto and the Calgary games if not for the fact that this game overlapped with a bunch of others. So it just didn't work. That being said, in points during this game, the Flames didn't work either. Early push by the Wild. The shots were 7-2 in favor of Minnesota around the 9-minute mark. And I kept waiting for Calgary to wake up. If this team had showed up against Dallas, we're in good shape. But here's the good news. If your team lost today, the announcers stated that they lost because they're distracted by Christmas. Every single game. Whoever lost, the announcers said, but it's the last game before Christmas, kind of insinuating that it doesn't matter. And I thought, doesn't that kind of take away from the teams that came out and played today and did well? I guess it does. It was a good start for Talbot. He robbed Cunnin. He played quite well. The numbers actually still show that. The Flames get a power play, and Johnny Gaudreau and Michael Backlund had a 2-on-1. The chance missed. So it's scoreless after one. Second period, Parise was denied by Talbot. Shots are 15-9 in favor of the Wild at that point, but Talbot was holding. The problem was they were just getting too many prime shots, and one of them eventually goes in. It's Eriksson Ek from Donato and Fiala at 4:51. They kept the pressure on. They would score again. Cunnin from Greenway and Sturm. That's Nico Sturm at 9:49. And it's 2-0 in favor of Minnesota. And then I was waiting for it. I'm like, all right, now Calgary's going to have to come back and fight it. No, they were kind of stuck on 9 shots for a while there. They weren't getting a lot of shots. There was pushback then by the Flames later on. Dubnyk, though, was really solid. They let Devin Dubnyk get comfortable and get a lead. Cunnin was then denied in the last minute by Talbot. Again, Talbot played great. He didn't get a star today, but he played very, very well. Third period, there was a scrum at the Wild net about 6 minutes and 30 seconds in. As these things tend to happen, it's usually a guy pokes at the goalie glove. The goalie's trying to cover it, and everybody comes in to exchange Merry Christmas and ho-ho-hos. And it felt like this was a trap game. And I don't mean like it's a trap, the Admiral Akbar Star Wars magnet. I mean trap like this is just Minnesota kind of taking the life out of the game and playing that really tight defense. The Flames had a push around 9.5 minutes, and Dubnyk denied it pretty good too. Ryan then got a goal. They took it back because he kicked the puck in. It's not the last time we would see a goal that looked like it was kicked in, and I fully admit I believe that one was kicked in, but we'll get to that game later. The Flames were unable to solve Dubnyk. That's what it was. And then an empty netter at 17-17. It's Eric Stahl from Brodin and Cunnin, so that's 1,005 points for Eric Stahl in his career. And the Wild get a 3-0 shutout victory. So Dubnyk saves 22 shots in the shutout. Talbot saves 25 out of 27. Like I said, very good game for Talbot. 3 stars are Dubnyk, Eriksson Ek, and Cunnin. Power plays, there was only one in the entire game. It was Calgary's, and it didn't score. And that's it. Shots were 10-7 Minnesota in the first, 15-8 Minnesota in the second, 9-7 Minnesota in the third. Final shots, 34-22 in favor of the Wild. So if you're a Flames fan and you're like, it doesn't feel like Calgary showed up today, you're pretty much bang on with that one. Apologize for the obnoxious cough. Next up, I don't know what happened here, but again, it's Christmas, so it's okay. That's that's the storyline from today. Any game that looks absolutely horrid like this, it's fine. If the score's horrid, it's fine. The Capitals were probably making gingerbread men on the bench during the game, and the gingerbread men were distracting them from the hockey. I don't know. And the Bruins, they're just meanie pantses about it, I guess. The Bruins got an early power play. They got another power play at 5 minutes and 28 seconds. DeBrusk would score on that one from Krejci and Grzelcyk at 5:37. The Caps then got their turn with a power play. They wouldn't score on it. And Boston would get more goals. First, it's Marchand from Pasternak and McAvoy at 13:29. Bjork then added to the lead with a third goal for the Bruins from Charlie Coyle at 13:56. So in 27 seconds, they put 2 on the board. Must have been a lot of gingerbread men on the board on the bench at the time. The Caps were completely distracted. The Caps get a power play, but it turned into a 4-on-4, and then it turned into a 5-on-3 for the Bruins, so that's kind of how that worked tonight. Power plays basically were the bane of the existence of the Washington Capitals tonight. Bergeron would score during the 5-on-3, and Pastrnak and Krejci get the assists on that at 18:57. And then the Caps should have been called for a delay of game as well, so they're still shorthanded, and they were lucky they didn't get called for a delay of game. But whatever the reasoning, it's fine. It's not a big deal. It's 4-0 at that point. Second period, early Caps power play. They got another power play. On that one, Charlie Coyle gets a shorthanded goal from Marchand at 6:55. So Boston starting to look dangerous shorthanded and getting goals. They've been dangerous shorthanded all year. They just haven't been getting the goals. Now they're showing up. Ovechkin would score from Wilson and Karlsson at 14:35, and it's 5-1 after 2. Third period, the Bruins get a power play. The Caps then got one as well, and the shots were really heavily in favor of the Caps. It was like after that first period, Boston went, they're not scoring 4. Oh, we'll just let Tuukka save a bunch of shots and we're fine. And does it bother me? Mildly, but when you have a 4-0 lead, it's not, or in a 5-1 lead in the third, it's not as egregious as when it's 5-3. It was 4-on-4 play at 13:26. The Caps ended up with a 4-on-3 shortly thereafter. It turned into a 4-on-4. It was a lot of power plays back and forth. Eller would score from Vrana and Gudas at 15:29. The Bruins then hit the empty net. It's Krejci from Corrali at 16:50. They pull the goalie again. Hathaway scores from Siegenthaler at 17:47. So they weren't going away. They weren't going away, and they did add a couple of goals. Oshie then drilled McAvoy. It was a clean, hard hit. But he drilled him, and McAvoy was pretty shaken up after. So I don't know if McAvoy's hurt. I haven't seen any reports on that, but I hope he's all right. It was a pretty good hit by Oshie. Then they'd add another empty netter, Bergeron from Marchand and Pastrnak at 19:32. And then there was a scrum at the end of the game. I only assumed to exchange Christmas cards or the gingerbread men that the Capitals were making on their bench during the game. That has to be what it is. NHL gingerbread man, that needs to be a trend. Holtby, 7 saves on 11 shots before he was replaced. Samsonov saved 3 out of 4. He didn't face very many shots. And he only saved 3 of them. Rask saved 39 out of 42. He's your first star. Coyle and Krejci are your second and third stars. Shots favored Boston 11-8 in the first, and they decided, well, enough of that crap. They got outshot 17-2 in the second, 17-4 in the third. Remember, 2 of those 4 shots are goals into an empty net. So essentially, they were outshot 34-4 in the last 40 minutes. Final shots 42-17 in favor of the Capitals. So, gingerbread man. That's got to be what it is. Absolutely, that's got to be it, right? All right, next up. Florida in against the Tampa Bay Lightning. So, again, now I assume that it was the Florida Panthers who were probably making those, those ropes of popcorn? That's what they were doing. So whatever team lost tonight, I'm going to find them a task they were doing that distracted them and caused the loss. Because it's fun and it's my last review for a few days. Point scores from Chernak and Kucherov at 41 seconds. First shot, and Tampa let them know that they weren't messing around today. Shots were 7-3 Tampa at the 8-minute mark. The Bolts then get a power play. They wouldn't score on that one, but they'd score on all the others. Hedman would score from Point and Palat at 15:06. There was a scrum at 16:32 after a hit by Huberdeau, which led to a power play for the Bolts. Sergachev scores from Palat at 18:03, and then the Panthers get a power play in the last minute. And I'm thinking, my video worked. My work is done here. Second period, Panthers get another power play. They would score on that one. So Huberdeau scores from Ekblad and Trocheck at 2:47. And at 3-1, you're thinking, all right, now Florida can come back. They've done it before. They've done it this year a couple of times where they're down by multiple goals. Are the Tampa Bay Lightning vulnerable tonight? The answer is no. Another power play goal. Killorn from Stamkos and Hedman at 5:53. And then they would get another. That second power play goal in a row was Kucherov from Point and Stamkos at 9:52. So I think all of the Tampa Bay Lightning players that were on my board this morning, I think they watched. I think even JT Miller watched because he got a point tonight as well. The Panthers get a power play, and we go into the third period with the score 5-1. Vasilevsky playing really well, and I'm asking myself, so it's my video, right? Every time I do a video on a team that's struggling, they start winning. If I do a video on a team that's winning, they start struggling. It's a weird thing. Hedman would score from Kucherov and Point at 18:05 to really kick it home that this is their barn. 6-1 is your final. Bobrovsky saves 28 out of 34. Vasilevsky saves 29 out of 30. So Vasilevsky's numbers are excellent. Your 3 stars are Hedman, Point, and Stamkos. Power plays, 1 for 4 for Florida, 3 for 4 for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So that power play that I talked about this morning, that's pretty good. It was excellent tonight. Shots were 16-9 in the first in favor of Tampa, 11-7 in favor of Florida in the second, 11-10 in favor of Tampa Bay in the third. Final shots 34-30 in favor of the Lightning. And this one really wasn't in any kind of doubt. But again, Florida was making those popcorn strings, the string popcorn that you put on your tree, so probably really distracted with that. Somebody who uses the timestamps is going to be really confused by how I'm doing this. Next up, this was a really good game. And I'm going to say right now, both teams I thought played pretty well. And this is one game from tonight that it probably would have been justice if it had gone to overtime. That being said, Columbus continues their hot streak. And for the Islanders, the cracks are there, and I don't want to make too much of it because they're still pretty far clear of any kind of trouble when it comes to their standing in the NHL. And again, it's the last game before the break, as everybody says. But yeah, tonight there was an early Isles power play. They wouldn't score on that. But then Lee would score from Barzal and Eberle at 6:17, so it's 1-0 in favor of the Islanders. Columbus was ahead in shots, but that is how the Isles play. They allow more shots for the most part, and it's shots from the outside. It's shots that aren't really all that dangerous, and so for Columbus, they're trying to break through that. And Greiss looked really, really good to start this game, and he played very well. So second period, we're at a 1-0 score in favor of the Islanders. Korpisalo was tested early. Dubois ends up hitting the post. Korpisalo then had a weird turnaround. The puck does a weird bounce off the boards, and he turned around and he made a weird... I can't describe it. It's not... If I had a table hockey game, I might be able to show it if the goalie spins. Some of them the goalies don't spin, and some of them they do. And if the goalie spin, I could probably show that. But yeah, Columbus ends up getting a power play, and they score on it. Stenlund with his second of the year from Werenski at 6:18. And then it happened. I didn't even see that Nathan Kirby was called up. I am absolutely overjoyed. This is the first goal that Nathan Kirby's had in over, 3 years? Nathan flippin' Kirby gets a goal from Wenberg at 9:34. That makes it 2-1 for Columbus. And when I saw that, I'm like, is that legit? And then I had to go over. I'm switching between games, and I went back to game. I'm like, really? Oh, yeah, Kirby's in there. That's awesome. But Barzal would cut that lead back to 0 as he scores from Boychuk and Eberle at 13:40. And, yeah, it's 2-2. Martin then kind of got into it with Boone Jenner. It looked like they might be making Christmas plans, seeing who's buying the turkey this year, that kind of thing. Third period, there was a scrum at around 4:34. Again, I assume this is all about frosting and Christmas trees and all that wonderful stuff. And I think the Islanders at this point in the third were trying to work on the tree with all the stuff they got from the Capitals and the Florida Panthers. That's my theory anyways. Columbus gets a power play after the Islanders had a power play. Cizikas then had a break, shorthanded, and was stopped. So Korpisalo, very good game for him. The Isles fans were then upset at a high stick that wasn't called. And this wasn't the only game tonight that saw some inconsistency in terms of what was and wasn't called. And you hear the announcers just lose their minds about it. Leddy ended up hitting the post after Gavrikov scored from Texier and Dubois at 16:31. So the Islanders did push back after that. Were not able to make that tying goal happen. They pulled the goalie with 1:25 left. They called a timeout with 41.5 seconds left. And Foligno went in on the empty net and hit the post. So Nick Foligno, no empty netter for you. Shots, 35 out of 37 were saved by Korpisalo. 32 out of 35 for Greiss. Your 3 stars are Gavrikov, Barzal, and Kirby. Kirby's one of the 3 stars. That makes me happy. That's a Christmas present for me that Nathan Kirby gets on the board. The reason why? Being a smaller stature male myself, I really admire that Kirby, who I think is 5'5", is still able to come up and play in the NHL and score a goal. I'm pretty sure he's 5'5". He's 5'5" or 5'6". Power plays, 1 for 2 for Columbus, 0 for 2 for the Islanders. Shots were 13-9 Columbus in the first, 17 each in the second. So defense, what's defense? And 11-5 in the third in favor of the Islanders. Final shots 37-35 in favor of the Islanders, who come out on the losing end 3-2 of what was a very good and very close game between two teams that may not like each other very much. So Columbus, they do their best to climb back into the race, and they step ahead of the New York Rangers in that race. We'll go through that tomorrow. I'll talk about the standings and who's where, and we can look at it. But for Columbus, things are starting to look a little brighter. It's still, the math is tricky. They have to continue this run for quite a while. But tonight, they did continue it. That being said, I need to change boards. That's what happens when you think you hit the pause button and you didn't. These things happen. I just don't like this. That being said, being sick at Christmas is not the first time, right? All right, Philadelphia against the New York Rangers. So the Flyers, they kind of made a statement in this game tonight, or the New York Rangers were busy fixing chains of Christmas lights. That's what I'll say the Rangers were doing tonight, and that's why they come out on the short end. They were trying to fix Christmas lights. And if you've never tried to do that, where you're trying to figure out exactly which bulb is busted, man, that can be such a pain. Anyways, the Flyers get an early power play. The Rangers got a power play. There were a lot of power plays in this game. My God, the first two periods of this game were almost unwatchable for how many calls they were making, because it takes the flow out of the game. There was a 5-on-3 for the Rangers for a minute and 4 seconds. Great penalty kill work by Couturier. Fantastic job by him. The Flyers' pressure led to a power play of their own. Lundqvist made some great saves. We come out of the first period. I think both teams had like 8 power plays in the first, it felt like, and it's scoreless. Second period, teams exchange power plays again early. The Flyers get another power play, and then a shorthanded goal would be scored. Jesper Fast scores from Shea and McKaig at 6:44. So for the New York Rangers, that's a good one. And for Philadelphia, that had to be frustrating. They kept getting all these power plays, and then it ends up in the back of their own net. There was another Rangers power play, and then the Flyers get another power play. Sanheim would score from Braun and Konechny at 19:58. So it's a tie game. In the third period, Hayes scores from Van Riemsdyk and Farabee at 7:31. And so that makes it 2-1. Voracek was then stopped by Lundqvist. Lundqvist had a really good game. The stats don't show it, but he did until late. Zibanejad then had a shot that hit the post, which would have tied it if that had gone in. And the whistles were put away in the third, and the announcers were not happy about it. The announcers were very, very vocal about the fact that a lot of things that were called penalties in the first two periods, now none of it was being called. And the penalties they were calling in the first two periods were nowhere near as egregious as the stuff they were skipping in the third. But it was a Philadelphia feed I was watching, and Keith Jones, he got happier when Sanheim scored from Couturier and Giroux to make it 3-1 at 15:49. Then Hayes scores from Van Riemsdyk and Braun at 17:15. And Obe Kubel with his first from Sanheim and Voracek at 19:02. And I believe that was the power play goal on the night, because there was one scored by Philly. I'm pretty sure that's it. Lundqvist saved 25 out of 30 for the Rangers. Hart saved 34 out of 35 for the Flyers. Hayes is your number one star. And the other two stars were Hart and Sanheim. So HHS, last initials of the 3 stars. Power plays 0 for 4 for the Rangers. 1 for 6 for Philadelphia, who outshot the Rangers in the first. 12-8, the Rangers had the control of the shots in the second and third. 14-7 in the second, 13-11 in the third. Final shots 35-30 in favor of the Rangers. And honestly, those 3 goals at the end, that hurts Lundqvist, who actually, I swear he had a good game. I know the numbers don't show it, but I swear, before those 3 goals, he was having a pretty darn good game for the Rangers, and it was at least close. All right, moving along. If I can make it through this, I swear. Ottawa at home against the Buffalo Sabres. Now, this didn't feel like it could be a trap game because it's a divisional opponent. And you shouldn't be capable of necessarily ending up, being asleep at the wheel against a divisional opponent. And this is another example of you've got to outwork the Senators. And they kind of did. Buffalo kind of did. But Craig Anderson, this is the best game he's played all year. The shots were only 1-1, 5.5 minutes in. So they didn't get a lot of pressure on Anderson. And I think that benefits him when he doesn't face a lot of pressure early and he can get settled into the game. Solid defense. Shot blocks the first half. The shots were only 4-3. At 12 minutes and 4 seconds in favor of the Buffalo Sabres. Ullmark denied Connor Brown, but in the last minute, those are the tricky goals. Pajot from Tkachuk at 19:06, so it's 1-0 in favor of Ottawa. Second period, early power play for the Sabres. Anderson then stopped Eichel, so a pretty major save there on Eichel that, again, I can't do it justice standing here. The Sens got a turn on the power play and then another. those back-to-back power plays didn't work because the Senators' power play sucks. It's back to that. Ullmark denied Ennis. They know I love them. They know I do. Gergensons would score from Bogosian at 15 minutes and 12 seconds, which tied it up going to the third period. Third period, relatively early, it's Pajot with his second goal of the game from Tkachuk and Brown. So at 5 minutes and 16 seconds, the Senators have the lead. And yet, the Sabres are the ones that have the puck more often than not. Anderson robbed the Sabres at around the 10:40 mark. He robbed them plenty. That was one that stood out to me. Tkachuk wanted a boarding call on Reinhart. He didn't get it. He wasn't very happy about it. I thought he got kind of close to taking an unsportsmanlike call himself, but Tkachuk complaining about something like that, it's kind of standard. Anderson continued to protect the lead, and they said the Sens were protecting the lead. And I'm like, it's not the Sens, it's Anderson. Goaltender gets pulled with 2 minutes and 15 seconds left, which means empty net goal. It's Tkachuk from Connor Brown at 18:36. It was awarded because I believe it was Ristolainen that tackled Tkachuk when he was going in on the net, and they can do that, where even if you don't get the goal, they go, yeah, no, that would have gone in because he got tackled. So they awarded the goal. Sabres called a timeout. It didn't go anywhere. Your final score is 3-1 in favor of the Senators. Ullmark saved 27 out of 29. Anderson saves 43 out of 44. Your 3 stars are Anderson, Pajot, and Tkachuk. Power plays, both teams go 0 for 2. Shots 14-10 in the first in favor of Buffalo. Both teams had 11 shots in the second. 19-8 in the third in favor of the Buffalo Sabres, who outshot the Senators 44-28. Anderson stole a game. It's really that simple. He stole the game. So with that win, if you're an Ottawa fan, are you worried they're running too much? Are they moving too far up the standings? Is that an issue? Or do you look at San Jose and go, we're going to have 2 really good draft picks anyways? All right, moving along. The Arizona Coyotes went in against the Nashville Predators tonight. Nashville did very, very well in the first period in this game. Like, incredibly well. Antti Raanta doesn't get a start tonight. I probably would have given him one. Early jump for the Preds. They were up 9-0 in shots 5.5 minutes into this game. Raanta was holding it scoreless. The Predators were dominant. It was still scoreless until Forsberg scores from Yossi and Duchesne at 18:08. So with 1:52 left, Nashville gets that first goal. Second period, it's 7.5 minutes, or almost 8 minutes, before Arvidsson scores from Järnkrok and Ekholm. So it's 7:53. It's 2-0. But late in the period, the Arizona Coyotes answer. Lawson Krause scores from Schmaltz and Goligoski at 18:07. And then the Coyotes get a power play. So you can feel some momentum shift coming on. And they had the lead in shots in that second period. So that momentum shift, we'll see if it continues into the third period. Krause had a good chance that was stopped. Lawson had a really good game tonight. The Predators had no shots in the first 5 minutes of that period. The Coyotes killed the Predators' power play where they got their first shots of the third period. Soderberg hit a post, and then Raanta robbed Järnkrok. Absolutely robbed him. Yossi would score, however, from Blackwell and Smith at 9:56. Not long after, 37 seconds later, Chychrun scores from Keller and Goligoski at 10:33. So keeping it a 1-goal game. Arizona staying within striking distance. Coyotes pushed for the tie. Soderberg hit the post again. He's going to be having nightmares tonight about hitting the post. There was more Coyotes pressure. They pulled the goalie with 2 minutes and 40 seconds left. And they ended up with a 6-on-4 power play with 24.1 seconds left in the game. So they did their best, but Nashville managed to push them to the outside. So the final score is 3-2 in favor of Nashville. Raanta saves 38 out of 41. Rinne saves 26 out of 28. Your 3 stars are Yossi, Arvidsson, and Rinne. Power plays, Arizona goes 0 for 2. Nashville goes 0 for 1. Shots, 22-5 in favor of Nashville in that first period. Second period, it was 15-13 in favor of the Arizona Coyotes. And then 8-6 in favor of Arizona in that third period. Final shots, 41-28 in favor of Nashville. So Nashville wins a game at home, and this is continuing that push that they've had going. And notice I've stopped making Christmas excuses because it does get old after all, doesn't it? It's just I heard it in every single game. Every game it was, well, this team lost, but it's Christmas break, so you can understand they didn't play very well. Well, why didn't they all lose then? Why aren't we looking at all these games and going, well, somehow 24 teams lost tonight in 12 games. Nobody won tonight. I think there should be some credit given to the teams that shut all of that out and came out and played. And I also heard, well, home teams aren't playing well because they've got Christmas stuff. There were home teams that won tonight. So again, I give credit where credit's due. Moving along, Montreal. The Habs, they love playing in Western Canada. Absolutely love playing in Western Canada. They wish they could make this trip multiple times a year. They go to Winnipeg tonight, and they school them. Now, in the first period, it didn't look like that was going to happen. There was a close call saved by the Habs in the first minute. The Habs had a 2-on-1 that was broken up by Beaulieu, who used to be Habs property, so it looked like this was going to be a good game for the Jets. Price then robbed Shore in close. The Jets had a goal called back, and then they got a power play. On the power play, they scored. Connor scores from Scheifele and Pionk at 11 minutes and 30 seconds. That's a power play goal. Sorry for hitting that. I'm a disaster today, aren't I? Yes, absolutely. The Habs then got a power play chance. They would score on theirs as well. Tatar scores from Suzuki and Petrie at 15:06. So power play is very important. Tatar would add another one at 16:38 from Weber and Gallagher. And it's 2-1 in favor of Montreal. And once they got that lead, they were very, very impressive. Tatar got another chance soon after. He wouldn't end up getting a hat trick, but he played very well. Very wide open and fast game in that first period. 33 shots between the two teams in the first. That was basically exactly what I thought might happen this morning. Second period, Danault scores from Gallagher at 4 minutes and 37 seconds. The Jets get a power play. They don't score on it. And then it's Philippe Danault scoring again at 8 minutes and 56 seconds. And at that point, or shortly after that, at 12 and a half minutes into the period, the Habs are up 10-3 in shots on the Jets in that period. It was not a good period for the Jets. Laine would score from Scheifele at 16:14 to make it closer. Domi then scored from Lehkonen and Suzuki at 19 minutes and 20 seconds. Last minute Jets power play. But coming out of the second period, it's 5-2. So we already feel like this game's done, but there's still a period to go. The shots were 3-0 Habs at the 3-minute mark, and it was a really great road trip for the Habs. They would score a little after the midway mark. Lehkonen scores from Domi at 11:08. So Domi gets a goal and an assist. Gallagher has a couple of helpers. Tatar with a couple of goals. Danault with a couple of goals. These are all guys that you want to see scoring if you're a Montreal fan. Price saved 27 out of 29 in the victory. Brossois saved 42 out of 48. 3 stars are Danault, Tatar, and Suzuki. Shots were 17-16 in favor of Montreal in the first. 17-6 Montreal in the second, and 14-7 Montreal in the third. Final shots 48-29. There was not a lot of defense tonight for the Winnipeg Jets. And again, we'll see how things are for them after the break. Power play, 1 for 2 by Montreal, 1 for 3 by the Winnipeg Jets. I didn't say it. I thought about saying it, but I didn't say it. That being said, I'm now going to change boards. All right, on to the last board. And this game, this is a disaster. So again, if you're a Chicago fan, you can look at this and go, all right, it's a one-off. And when it comes to the power rankings tonight, I was pretty decent about it. So day to day with the power rankings, I don't always push a team forward if they win, and I don't always push a team back if they lost. Sometimes I look at the board and I look at the result and I go, I'm still okay with where these teams are at despite the result, which is where the power rankings now are different from where they were last year and the year before, where a result would mean automatic movement and it didn't matter. It didn't matter whether any of it. So I'm trying to say that Chicago, I kind of gave them a pass tonight. We'll see if that continues past this game. Early Hawks power play, and they would get a goal. Zach Smith with his second as a member of the Hawks from Kampf and Highmore at 3:21. So Chicago's up, and you're like, all right, Chicago's going to beat New Jersey. New Jersey's not a problem. Gilbert then had a fight with Hayden, so John Hayden back in Chicago, where he played not that long ago, deciding to have a fight with Gilbert. That's nice. Hayden took the instigator penalty, which threw the Hawks onto the power play. Zaka got a shorthanded chance, and it turned into a 4-on-4 out of that shorthanded chance. The Devils had 3 shots, though, in the first half of the period. It was all Chicago. And then it turned. It turned when Jack Hughes got a goal from Simmons at 14:46. The Hawks get another power play. They wouldn't score on it. And this is something you're going to hear a lot in this review, because they don't score on their power plays. And that, in a game that's this lopsided, it could have changed the momentum if they'd scored on one of these power plays. Second period, PK Subban gets a goal. That's the first one he's had in, it's been a while, from Bratt and Palmieri at 51 seconds. Severson would then score from Gusev at 7:22. The Hawks end up getting a power play. Didn't score on it. Hayden would score from Butcher and Zaka at 10:40. Crawford's out at that point. Robin Lehner's coming in. Just This doesn't really matter. Zajac would score from Coleman and Green at 17:22. That's a shorthanded goal. So they had another power play that ended up in their own net. Third period, Coleman would score at 18 seconds from Severson and Gusev. And at that point, I said, all right, I can move on and look at other games because this one's over. 7-1, even the Devils can't blow a 6-goal lead in the third. I believe in you, New Jersey. I believe you won't blow a 6-goal lead in the third period. I believe in that. Now, Blackwood makes 32 saves on 33 shots. Crawford saves 16 out of 20. Leonard goes in, saves 21 out of 24. The defense wasn't very good. The goaltending wasn't great either. It's kind of a pick-em with Chicago. 3 stars are Coleman, Severson, and Hayden, so they blew a chance to get closer to Calgary that lost today in the standings. Power plays, New Jersey goes 0 for 3, which makes sense because their power play sucks. Chicago's hasn't been very good this year either, and 0 for 7 really stands out. Shots were 14-8 for Chicago in the first, and then it's all New Jersey in the second, 23-8, and then 13-11 for New Jersey in the third. Final shots 44-33 in favor of the visiting team, the New Jersey Devils. Again, this is one of those games where if you came in a vacuum and you didn't know who was who and what was going on, you just watched this game not knowing the standings, you'd be like, wow, Chicago must be having a miserable year. New Jersey's pretty deadly, huh? Where's Taylor Hall? Where's Taylor Hall at? And then you'd have to explain to them, actually, New Jersey's in the cellar, Taylor Hall's in Arizona, and at that point they're like, I'm going back in the freezer. This is too weird. Next up, the Edmonton Oilers went in against the Vancouver Canucks. It's not Ottawa because they won tonight. Vancouver, it looked like, was going to take a dive tonight. I was really surprised at this result, to be completely honest. The Canucks get a power play early on. They wouldn't score on it. Mott scores at 11 minutes and 15 seconds. Of all people, it's Mott, because of course it is. But they would answer pretty quick after. Nugent Hopkins from Caleb Jones at 15 minutes and 40 seconds. Markstrom then stopped Draisaitl shortly thereafter. So going into the second period, it's a 1-1 tie. But early, they get a power play, they being the Oilers. Clefbaum would score from McDavid and Draisaitl at 3:02, and it's 2-1 for the Oilers. And as soon as that went in, I was like, oh, it's one of those games again where the Canucks are playing relatively well, but they just can't get the breaks. Horvat had a chance, didn't score there, and I put right up here, may never get one, because he had scored every goal so far on the road this year, and if you look at his points on the road, which are a point a game, and his points at home, which are anemic, it's really weird. 6 minutes then went by without a whistle. Markstrom stopped Bear. There was a scrum at the Oilers' net, which led to a 4-on-4 with 5:48 left. But going into the third period, it's 2-1 for the Oilers. And I'm thinking, yeah, well, the Oilers are probably going to win this. At least it's close. At least it's not one of those 7-3, 7-1, 6-2, 6-1 games we've seen today. But it was the good Koskinen tonight. It's like there's a split personality with Mikko Koskinen, and to some extent with Mike Smith as well, where when they're on, they're fantastic. And when they're off, it's Dougie Hamilton scoring from center ice. But it was the good Koskinen tonight. Horvat scored. Koskinen immediately came out and said, no, kicked in. And it looked like a kick to me. And I put up here, no luck for Bo. Even John Garrett, people talk about, oh, John Garrett's a big homer. John Garrett looked at it and went, oh, yeah, I don't know. That could be kicking. And Shorthouse and Garrett were both kind of getting ready for, oh, I can't believe this. And even Garrett said, look, I've already got it down on the score sheet, so they can't take it away from him. And they reviewed it with Toronto, and it was a goal. So I was very surprised, and it's the kind of break the Canucks haven't been getting this year. It's the kind of break Bo Horvat hasn't been getting at all, and he gets a goal. So he gets the goal. It went off of his skate. It was directed, but I guess it wasn't a distinct kicking motion. From Pearson and Tanev at 4 minutes and 12 seconds. The Canucks made a push. The Oilers then pushed right back. So it was a very back-and-forth game after that. Really, really exciting game. Heavy Oilers pressure, and eventually that Oilers pressure led to a power play for the Edmonton Oilers. McDavid's a pretty good player. I don't know if you know this or not, but McDavid, he's pretty strong on his skates, and he's pretty strong with the puck, and if he decides he's going to the net, good luck stopping him without taking a penalty. So he had a good chance in there that was stopped by Markstrom. The Oilers were really controlling the puck at that stage. The Canucks then got a power play, and check it out. Quinn Hughes scores from Miller and Besser at 13:48. So the Canucks suddenly have a lead. I'm left saying, what's going on? They just scored on the power play. And Besser with another helper. So again, people will point out Brock Besser not getting goals. I don't care. He's still getting points. It's fine. The Oilers had a 2-on-1. Markstrom stopped. Koskinen then denied Virtanen. Virtanen was going to wire that 11th, and Koskinen denied him. Beagle had a chance that went high. They pull the goalie with 1:55 left, and this is where it's nice. So Pearson passes it to Edler. Edler sees Louis Eriksson out there. Louis Eriksson, we know he's been fighting the puck for ages as a Canuck. Edler gives it to him so he can get the empty netter. Louis Eriksson has 2 goals now, both of them against the Edmonton Oilers. Koskinen saves 24 out of 27 in the loss. Markstrom saves 27 out of 29 in the win. 3 stars are Hughes, Clefbaum, and Horvat, and both of the Hughes brothers got goals tonight, and their games are right next to each other. Isn't that nice for Christmas? I think that's nice. Power plays, both teams went 1 for 2. Shots were 9-7 in favor of Edmonton in the first, 13-11 in favor of Vancouver in the second. In the third, 9-8 in favor of the Oilers, 29-28 in favor of the Oilers. This was a very close game. Could have gone either way. And again, it's one of those games where finally it felt like the Canucks got a bounce. Horvat gets a bounce, finally has a goal at home. We'll see if that gets them going. Oh, maybe I'll be able to breathe tomorrow. Colorado. Obnoxious tonight. Notice, this is a different style of number than that. Now, I had to make a second 7 tonight. And I didn't have 2 7 magnets. Now I do. Then a third game went to 7. So I thought, you know what? No, I'm going to take the old-fashioned retro ones that I've got, and I'm going to make a magnet out of that. So there, like I did with the 3 a couple weeks ago. So tonight, let's get to how Colorado gets here. Bellemare scores from Compher and Cole at 4 minutes and 37 seconds, but Vegas answers. Reeves from Nosek and McNabb at 10:23. That's a goal that was originally awarded to Carrier. They changed that to Reeves later on. Nieto would score a shorthanded goal from Compher at 14:28, and then Kadri on an amazing goal by himself at 17:35 makes it 3-1. Francouz then denied Zykov, and what made this bad was this is 3-1 for Colorado, and Vegas outplayed them. Vegas outplayed them by a pretty wide margin for a lot of that first period, and they come out of it down 3-1. Second period, Engelland had a fight with Nichushkin. By a fight, I mean Engelland threw a lot of punches, and Nichushkin kind of hung on. I don't think Nichushkin's had a fight in the NHL before. I can't remember it, but the fact he's willing to fight shows just how much his game has changed since he went to Colorado. Good on him. The Avs were ahead in shots in the second period, so they definitely picked it up. It was a good road game for them until Pacioretty scores from Stevenson and Stone at 11 minutes and 57 seconds. So Chandler Stevenson is putting up some points with the Vegas Golden Knights after arriving from Washington. And then Nieto was denied. The Avs end up going to the power play. On said power play, Landeskog scores from McKinnon and Girard at 14:06. And it felt like every time Vegas started to get the momentum back in the second or the third, Colorado would go, nope, another goal. And they would just take it right back. Bellemare would then get a goal shortly after that goal by Landeskog. They challenged it as offside. It wasn't offside. Bellemare gets a goal. Oh, no, this is the one. The Bellemare goal is the offside goal from Nichushkin and Calvert at 16:58. And you could see that it was onside. As soon as I saw the replay, I'm like, that's onside. That's a good goal. It was really, really close. But there wasn't enough evidence to overturn it, and to me it looked like it was a good goal. So the penalty goes to Vegas. Stone, however, while they were shorthanded, got robbed by Francouz. So Francouz had a really good game. Third period, Vegas was juggling the lines to start the third period, and it worked. Carrier scores from Schmidt and Smith at 2 minutes and 6 seconds, and you feel like, all right, if they can score again, we got a whole new game. Rantanen would score a power play goal, though, from McKinnon at 3:57, so the penalty kill was a problem. There were a lot of problems tonight for Vegas. They had the one power play, and they allowed a shorthanded goal on it as well. The Avs went back to the power play. They wouldn't score on that one. However, late in the game, Nichushkin gets a goal at 16:53. Valeri Nichushkin, right now, this is the player that Dallas drafted and never saw the entire time he played for the Dallas Stars. This is the guy right here. Francouz, 29 saves on 32 shots in the win. I'm not bitter or upset about it. This is what I wanted to see from him. Fleury, 31 saves on 38 shots. This is the most goals he's allowed in a game in a long time. He was not a happy camper after this game. I was actually kind of surprised he was left in for all 7 goals, that they didn't go to Subban after like the 6th. But he allows all 7. Bellemare, Nichushkin, and Francouz are your 3 stars. Power plays 2 for 5 for Colorado in the 7-3 victory. 0 for 1 for Vegas in the loss. Shots were 18-12 Vegas in the first, 13-10 in favor of Colorado in the second, and then they were just they didn't have it in the third period. They got outshot 13-4, so they were pretty disheartened at that stage. 38-32 are your final shots in favor of the Colorado Avalanche in this game. All right, last game, and then I can go figure out how to breathe. You would think that at this age I would know how to breathe, but apparently my nose has forgotten all about it. First period, Braden Shen would score from Dunn and Bortuzzo at 4:51, and the Kings were absolutely overwhelmed by the Blues pretty quick in this game. Schwartz would score on the power play from Pietrangelo and Perron at 5:43. The shots were 8-4 in favor of St. Louis at the 8.5-minute mark, and they just kept going. Dunn would score from De La Rose at 11:22. They get a power play. Shen would score on the power play at 12:21. And LA, who has had trouble with their special teams all year, they sunk them tonight in the first period. Iafallo, however, would score during a late power play. That's a power play goal from Doughty and Kopitar at 18:53. Okay, so in the second period, the Kings had some pressure around the 7-minute mark, and honestly, there was no way they were going to score because Binnington was playing really well tonight, and he wasn't sharing the spotlight with anybody wearing black. The Kings were up 8-3 in shots at the 12-minute mark. They get a late power play. It wasn't going anywhere. Third period, the Kings got an early power play, and it turned into a 5-on-3. That didn't go anywhere either. This was a really good game for the Blues. You name a part of the game, they played it pretty well. Big shot advantage in that third period for the Kings, but it didn't really matter because for the Blues, they kind of just tuned out. It felt like they tuned out after the first and just played prevent defense. And all right, we've got a 4-1 lead. Come at us. We know you don't have the offense to come after us, and if your offense shows up, we've got this guy Binnington here. He's pretty good, and he's not nervous. Binnington saves 29 out of 30 in the 4-1 victory for St. Louis. Quick saved 24 out of 28. This was, of games that were all really lopsided, this was the one that I was able to tune out the quickest. 12 minutes in, it's 4-0 St. Louis. And all I thought was, well, LA's not scoring 4 goals tonight, so it's over. So Quick saved 24 out of 28 in the loss. Shen, Pietrangelo, and Bortuzzo are your 3 stars tonight. Power play, St. Louis goes 2 for 2. LA goes 1 for 5. The shots, 15-7 St. Louis in the first, 8-7 LA in the second, 15-6 LA in the third, and final shots 30-28 in favor of the Kings. But St. Louis had this game wrapped up in the first, much like the Bruins against the Washington Capitals. So again, you can write some of these off and say, well, it's the last game before the break. Team may have been distracted. And you can kind of say, all right, well, we'll see how they are after the break. We've got 3 days off now in between games. There won't be games again until the 27th. I will remind people there's going to be a meetup on the 26th in Port Moody, which I posted on the community page of this channel. And yes, despite my current state of illness, I'm going. There's nothing stopping me from going. Because after hometown hockey was here and that was kind of lame, I want to have a meetup. I really wanted to have a meetup since that experience was kind of a downer for me. But there you go. You guys are all caught up on what happened tonight. There will be videos tomorrow. Again, regardless of how I feel tomorrow, I will be doing videos. I will also be doing videos on Christmas. There will be a live stream on Christmas. We haven't come up with a time yet. We will come up with that tomorrow in all likelihood, and I will make sure that the channel has plenty of notice that's coming. So for people who celebrate the holidays and love the holidays, awesome. And for people who don't love the holidays and it's a rough time, I know I'm not the only creator that understands that. There's another creator I know that she's live streaming on Christmas Day, and I'm pretty sure she's live streaming like while she's gaming or whatever she's doing. She's doing a live stream. I think she intends to do like an hour and a half, around the same as what I do. And it's because Christmas is not the festive wonderland for everybody. So keep that in mind this holiday season. I wish everybody a very merry next 3 days. If you're not going to be on the channel for the next 3 days, I'll try not to be hurt. But I understand the traffic's usually pretty low over the next 3 days. I get it. People have family and other stuff to do, and I am not part of the family. So, that being said, thank you guys so much for all your support, even while I'm feeling like trash. And hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. This is not how my voice normally sounds, so don't expect that with regularity. And hey, thank you guys so much for all your support. 2019's been an amazing year. There will be some end of the year, end of the decade videos. I can say end of the decade because there's other channels, not YouTube either, like regular channels talking about the end of the 2010s. So I could say that because it's the end of the decade. The 2020s start on January 1st, and it's fine. It's enjoyable to look back at the last 10 years. So we will be doing that. And thank you guys so much for being here and for helping to make this channel what it is. And that's why I have no problem staying up till it's almost 11 o'clock my time to make this video for you guys when I don't feel optimal. But hey, thank you guys so much for all your support. and I will talk to you again in the morning. And yes, when I had the sniffles earlier, I thought, oh, do I start over or do I leave it in? No, I'll leave it in. I'll leave it in. It's fine. So there you go. Thank you guys so much for all the support and for all the best wishes. And there will likely also be like kind of a Christmas unboxing video tomorrow. And we'll see what else we can do for fun stuff throughout Christmas for people, again, who may not be observing or may not be celebrating. And that's okay. Thank you guys so much. I will talk to you again soon.